Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a Thursday night slate here with 5 games right before we take a little break for that All-Star break. We do also have some videos coming for you with that All-Star break, some of those game lines and props, and some of the stuff going on Friday night and Saturday night and All-Star weekend in Cleveland. We're actually recording these Thursday games for you on Wednesday night as we take a look at this little slate here. Nate does have his great article up on playpicks.com for you as well, with some best bets and player props in there for you. And make sure to like and subscribe to that page, as we got a couple other videos up for you today, including that player props video that we liked to get hot with on Wednesday night. As we are turning things around for you, we'll look to end this first half of the season on a pretty high note with these. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, 5 games to round out the first half of the season, and TNT, I assume, is going to look to build this 8:30 game between the 76ers and Bucks as a potential Eastern Conference Finals preview. Sixers definitely did not get off on the right foot of the James Harden era there, losing by about 50 points to the Celtics, but they are +6 in Milwaukee in that game with a total of 223 as we open. The 4 other games on the slate, we got Miami -4 at Charlotte, total of 226 there. We will break that one down in a separate video. We got the Wizards +3 at the Nets, who are coming off a big comeback against the Knicks Wednesday night. Mavericks -2.5 at the Pelicans, and then the Rockets, who are trying to pull off an upset in Phoenix right now, are +10 as they head to the Clippers to round out that slate. The Sixers, I mean, it's a question of how much of this James Harden news bonanza partying that assuredly went on behind closed doors is going to affect them. And is it just a one-off? Was it just one game where they just said, oh, things are great, we traded a 0 in our locker room for one of the top 10 offensive players in the league, and he came to practice and it was all sunshine and roses, and then they realized they actually had to go out and play a game against a really hot opponent. So, I mean, they shot pretty much an abysmal 28% from the floor. I don't know if it gets any worse than that against Boston. Embiid still did his thing, getting 16 free throw attempts and 19 points in his limited time out there. He's actually struggled his last 3 trips to Milwaukee with an 87.8 offensive rating. And the Sixers have lost 6 straight to Milwaukee, but Embiid has missed 2 of the last 3, including the only meeting this season. When he did play in Milwaukee last April, they lost by 7 points. So we're right on that kind of spread line here. That's been the deal with Milwaukee, right, is going right up to where the spread is and not necessarily covering at home. Another team this year that's struggling to meet the expectations. They're 9-17 to the spread when listed as a home favorite, 11-19 at home straight up, with an average margin of victory of 4.3 points. It's not going to get it done here. Of course, their last 11 at home, 7-4 straight up, but 4-7 against the spread. I think what you can expect is offense when Milwaukee is playing a capable opponent. In their last 9, they've gone over at home 6 times. In their last 9 overall, they've gone over 8 times. When you're 4th in offensive rating and 25th in defensive rating in that span, it makes sense you're going over. And they're playing at pace, the 5th fastest right now, allowing the most threes per game, which is not at all Philly's strength right now, especially getting rid of Seth Curry. They don't really have anybody you can hit from deep. Danny Green should get hot. Shake Milton is back now. But the thing is, Milwaukee's also top 10 in paint points allowed, 3rd highest field goal percentage allowed. They're really just countering, giving up a lot of points, still struggling to protect that rim without Brook Lopez as Serge Ibaka gets acclimated here. But they're allowing 117, and they're just going down on the other end and outscoring you because nobody's been able to stop Giannis. And Philly is on that list. In his last 6 versus Philly, 30 points per game, 16 rebounds per game, a cumulative plus 104 when he's on the floor. So that is always scary, but I feel confident. I would feel more confident betting on the underdog here. I'm betting on Philly to not lose by double digits in consecutive marquee games. If you want to tease it to +10 and the total down to 219, I think we get an over there. And I think we get Philly not getting embarrassed in consecutive games. I feel better about that than guaranteeing a blowout win for Milwaukee.
Yeah, I don't want to guarantee a blowout win for Milwaukee. What I want to do is parlay the money line for Milwaukee with that over there that's sitting at 223 right now. I really want to do that, but I just that drubbing that they just took in Boston did Philly was painful to watch. I mean, they still had Tobias Harris, Maxey, and Joel Embiid. All playing in that game. I understand Seth Curry wasn't there and Andre Drummond was missed as well, but come on, to the tune of a 50-point blowout, that was an anomaly. As you sort of correctly put, who knows if they got off the bus in that game and what sort of went down in James Harden's style celebration after he became a part of the 76ers, because that was just totally, one that I'm almost just crossing off, but it is in the back of my mind as I think about this over. So really, look, we're talking about this game on a 5-game slate right before everybody takes a huge break. And the thing, and we're choosing this game because it's the best game to talk about, and I think there's some things to eye here, but I think the main thing to eye is that Milwaukee's going to get their team total in this one, which sits at about 108.5 or so. No, excuse me, 112.5. Sorry, so around 112.5 or so, even a bit. Yeah, 112.5 for most of these bets, but a lot of these odds are still coming out. But at 223.5 with them, as a 7.5 point favorite, I still feel good about them getting honestly close, over 115 in this game, and to a place where I think that those overs that have been hitting for Milwaukee at the rate that they have, as you mentioned, in their last, I believe 6 in a row here, 6 in a row that have gone over, and then 8 of their last 9 as well. And in those games, we've got plenty of home games. They are definitely going over a bit more on the road as their defense has gotten worse, but you look at 2 of those games without Giannis playing Phoenix in that time frame as well. Once again, the play here for me is that Milwaukee winning, and I don't love that spread just because of the fact that as we mentioned, they're not covering on the road as home favorites, going 9-17 against the spread there, but they are 18-8. When they're home favorites straight up, right? So we know that they are winning in those games, and there are probably some decent sized spreads in there as well that lead to those covers not happening for them against some of those poor teams. But I think that right now what we can feel really good about is we know what we've got from Milwaukee, and it's really sort of a summation of the Eastern Conference scenario and picture overall in general, which is we've got a couple of teams right now that are vying, really 3 teams that are sort of challenging Milwaukee, and which is the most known commodity in the Eastern Conference. We've got Philly, we've got the Nets, and then even Miami is still somewhat of an unknown commodity considering that Kyle Lowry is such an important part of what they do this season. But what we know is Milwaukee is who they are, and when they have Giannis in the game, this is a great scenario where I think you're getting some value on him and his what you'll see in his props in this game because he's done so well against his team, but that he is playing against a Philly team where they don't give up points in the paint, especially at home, and if they're where they're stopping people in terms of playing defense is down low, and as we know, Joel Embiid's so crucial to that. So the fact that Giannis scores so many of his points down there and has done so against a team that doesn't give up points in the paint even when Joel's playing makes you feel good that he's going to continue to pull off what he's done against them as of late. The fact that Milwaukee has won all those games as of late against them as well, covering even when Joel Embiid is in there, right? We know he has missed about 3 of their last 4 against Milwaukee, but even in the game that he played, they still lost by 7, which, as you mentioned, is right around that spread. So I'm not opposed to a tease, just because I can see things going both ways. But at the end of the day, I think that money line with an over for Milwaukee, like I said, I do think that they can get they're going to get their 115, 116 tonight. And as a result, if Philly just gets to about 108 tonight, you can feel pretty good about this game, from that standpoint, and still get about plus 257 on your money.
Yeah, I'm with the Milwaukee team total over for sure, because there's a lot more of an unknown on the Philadelphia side of the ball, is whether they're just going to decide to pack it in and just take 2 L's going into the All-Star break when they expect Harden to come onto the team after that, or whether they're going to play for some pride here and play to show themselves that they're actually a legitimate contender still. They've been a bit slumpy in their last 7 since Embiid decided to just take that Monday game off against Memphis. They're only 2-5 against the spread. They're 24th in offensive rating. They've had 2 road games in that span against contenders, I would say the Mavericks and Bulls. And those were much more efficient on both ends. They were much more playoff style back and forth. They didn't go over against the Mavs because it's the freaking Mavs, but 118 offensive rating and a 116 defensive rating in those games. That definitely indicates high efficiency. When you have 2 of the top 3 MVP candidates, as a Freudian slip there, you would expect them to go back and forth and have a kind of a competitive game that helps you get over there, even though, the numbers might not indicate, one team does well against what the other does, but sometimes just players transcend numbers. And the other thing is just, this is the dog days of the NBA season, and if you need an indication of how quickly things can change from night to night, the Celtics just lost to the Pistons after beating these Sixers by 50. So it's just it's a question of how focused are you, how motivated, how rested are you. I think the Sixers will bounce back. They've been pretty consistent on the road, right? I mean, 9-4 against the spread as road dogs, 9-2 straight up at their last 11 road games. So I would just rather ride with the underdog here. And if you're taking a money line, maybe just take the plus money and say that the Sixers could actually pull off this game, because Milwaukee's been far from bulletproof lately.
They have, and part of that is sort of a decrease again in Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, both scoring only about 18 points a game in their last 5. But at the same time, they didn't have Giannis in 2 of those, and you look at him in the last 5 games he's played in at 33 a game. I think the same logic can be used to explain why Milwaukee is going to come out in this game and win. It's been a little bit of an inverse this season for them from what we're used to, where Milwaukee just handles all these bad teams and then struggles a little bit more with these good teams. This year they haven't handled the bad teams quite as well, but they've brought it in the games that when it's on TNT and it's against the Phoenix Suns, it's against the Warriors, etc. So I think this is another one where they do bring it, but I think at the same time all that means is, once again, my favorite and safest bet in this one is going to be their team total, because I think if Philly is going to stick with them, they're going to have to score as well, and Milwaukee's going to get theirs at home as they do with those overs. So that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page, and check out those other couple videos we've got for you before we head to this All-Star break. And until we see you next, happy betting.